Mr. Micheál Martin, you fucking trash bag, you Roose Bolton looking motherfucker. Yeah, you fucking wanker. You have stolen my future, you wanker. You have stolen my dreams, you fucking wanker, man. You fucking piece of shit, bro. Micheál Martin and you fucking vocal tarnish, the Leo Varadkar. You fucking trash bag, man. Golf at your fucking golf tournament. Yeah, it's meant to be gentlemen only, ladies forbidden. Well, I didn't see any gentlemen there. All I saw is a bloody bin liner conference at the bloody Galway races or whatever it happens. I'm just saying, this doll, Aaron, man, that bloody doll, you know what it is? It's like bloody home farm, man. It's like not the football club, but an actual bloody pigsty, man. If this was a fucking Orwellian a novel, it wouldn't be 1984. It'd be bloody fucking the farm one, Animal Farm. These guys are bloody. And let me tell you something else, Mr. fucking Micheál Martin. You might be a peer of Tony Cowell. I know you famously record in the podcast studios there, but that's where the peerage ends, man. Because he's you want to say 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, but you're just a fucking bad man. You know, I don't know what I'm talking anymore. The bloody dog. Oh my god! Do you know they should call it instead of the bloody doll, they should call it the bloody dog because woof, is that a shite doll? I love my satire. I actually think my satire is as good as Anton out there, as the bloody Onion. Nah, mate, I'm going to Gary and let that one slide. Because what else? It's just, I can either do it where I'm like, more like the 33rd doll. You know why they call it the 33rd doll? Because it's full of... full of shitheads, man. Doll. Can't call you. Can everyone stop farting? But that's what we are. We're shits. That's as fucking highbrow as I am willing to go. So don't mind them. Look, I've actually started. Did somebody say sharted? Oh my God, Micheál Martin sharted again. My son sharts quite a lot now. They're shitty farts. Am I at the level now where it's like comedian goes off on the doll, and then people say like take this verbatim, likened it to Mr. Cantwell with having provided no reference, claimed that this was called the 33rd doll because it's a turdy turd where everyone's a shit. I find no evidence for this, and in fact, I dispute Mr. Cantwell's claims, and I'm considering legal action. Is that I'm only messing. I'm a satirist now as well. You can add that to Tony Cantwell Wiki. But I've started this on the wrong foot. I'm trying to be clean. I'm trying to not be in any way more, educated or eloquent or anything like that. And by the way, we are not editing this. This is fucking raw today. So I'm not editing this. I'm honestly not editing this. This is going like, no. So there might be a couple of me sounding like I'm twiddling my bloody thumbs. And this is the point that I want to make. I'm going clean, guys. I'm going clean. I'm getting off the hard stuff. Swearing, right? I am going. How am I supposed to be the Irish entry? I'm not talking about bloody Georgia Salpas. And I'm not talking about, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that. How am I supposed to be Ireland's entry winner, host of the Eurovision Song Contest, if I can't keep me bloody arse wiped? Do you know what I mean? So I'm going clean. It's a new corporate Cantwell, right? I'm going corporate now, right? and I'm going. This is all by the book, right? And I'm going to be mainstream, broad, but not broad humored. So I'm going for it all, and part of that is me cleaning up, being squeaky clean. So I'm not swearing anymore, right? So consider whatever that scathing political satire you just heard there, the end of the smut. And I will not be swearing for the rest of this podcast. And in line with this new corporate image for the pod, I have decided to rename this podcast. You might have already seen it if you haven't seen already. I'm changing the name, guys. This was obviously known for a while, and pardon my swear here when I say this, it was known for a while as Tony Cantwell Shit Show. Well, now, are you ready? Can we get a bit of music, please? From here on in, to be as broad and as accessible as possible, to be castrated of my smut, but Jesus help me. This podcast will hereby be known and more algorithm accessible as Tony Cantwell's Hit Show. Tony Cantwell's Hit Show. Tony Cantwell's Hit Show. I know. So this is the new podcast, Tony Cantwell's Shit Show. Tony Cantwell's Shit Show is the name of this podcast officially. It's Tony Cantwell's Shit Show. Tony Cantwell's Hit Show. So that's it going forward, guys. You know, I mean, you can still call it by the old name if you'd like. Whatever. Look, it's no big deal. I basically moved one letter over and a little apostrophe. You can call it whatever you like. You know, I'll be calling it its new name, Tony Cantwell's Hit Show. Tony Cantwell's Shit Show. Tony Cantwell's Shit Show. You know, but in terms of what it's actually titled and going out on the algorithms, you know, so it can maybe pop up on the front page of, you know, Apple Podcasts, and maybe I can promote it in the future. It'll be Tony Cantwell's Hit Show. But, you know, we really know what it is. So that's the new pod. That's the new. This has been the pageantry. This has been the pageantry of the introduction of the new. And look, you know, if you want to call it a rebrand, look, I've always been a guy. I've always, you know, they've called me the Madonna of Facebook comedians in the way I come back and I rebrand. Sometimes I have a mustache. Sometimes I have a beard. Haven't had my hair cut in a while. You know, well, not like short, you know. I don't know what fucking talking about nowadays. I shouldn't have sworn there. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not doing it anymore. Swear jar. There you are. One coin in the swear jar. So listen, come here to me. Thanks very much for being here. You know I love you. You know I fancy you. I will also say, this podcast is entirely for sale with its new squeaky clean image. So if you want, you know, I can do whatever you want to do. Like baby wipes or whatever, water wipes you want to, you know, sponsor here, Liga or whatever, you know. I've got a child. This is a family podcast now. So if you want to start sponsoring Liga, tastes. It doesn't taste. I won't talk about. I'm getting out of this. But if you want to sponsor, you know, let me know. It's got to be family friendly though, aligned with my new family friendly family man image in Tony Cantwell's Hit Show. So that's the announcement. Everyone's been asking me. People have been stopping me in the street saying, Tony, what is the name of your new podcast? I'm like, guys, you're just going to have to wait and see when you open up the app on Tuesday morning, right? That's just the fact of the matter. So look, for this pod, I watched a show called Love on the Spectrum, a Netflix show, Netflix documentary, not a trashy, you know, Love at First Sight or Love is Blind or that other stupid one where they couldn't get the ride. Oh, not having a go. I mean, they cut it well. But this was actually a very interesting and very educational insight into the world of autism and trying to build relationships, and not played for in any kind of thing other than expanding our own understanding of the autism spectrum. So it was fascinating to understand. And the characters were gas. They were very funny people. So I'm going to talk about that. So you have that to look forward to, as well as probably, I don't know, whatever comes off the top of the dome. You know, broad family humor here on Tony Cantwell's Hit Show. It's Tony Cantwell's Shit Show. And I know that the show is Tony Cantwell's Shit Show. And I know, yeah. Ah, lovely stuff there. Lovely. The French champagne. Lovely stuff. They're the same classic theme song for the new, improved, family-friendly, I'm a family man, sponsored by Liga. Tastes like shit. No illegalities. Look, there should be no more alluding to piracy, online piracy. There shall be no alluding to marijuana use. There shall be no silly Billy Siggies here. There shall be none of this carry on the new Tony Cantwell's shit show. Tony Cantwell's hit show. You know, we're going family friendly here. People have been stopping me on the street. They've been saying, "Hey, Four Eyes, what's the name of your new show? You bloody muppet!" And I said, "Listen, man, I'm just moving on a bloody apostrophe over. Right, chill. Right, this is no." You don't. I don't want to mess too much with a classic, right? This is just like the new BMW logo. This is just the new whatever, you know. Moving a bloody apostrophe over apostrophe. What a poncy. What a poncy way of calling it you know. I swear, a fucking duh. Sore apostrophe. Don't you mean a fucking duh? That's all it fucking is. Apostrophe. I'm not swearing too much, but anyway. But this we're going. Look, I'm only doing a bit. I'm only doing a bit of a gag, right? I just thought with the algorithms, I've been able to market this out to a, you know, I'm not, you know, just once you're on board in here in the podcast, you know, I can let the bloody effing and blind and you know the C words go mad, you know. Speaking of which, fuck the boats. C words go mad, but outside on the actual product itself, I think I needed to do a Mark Maron, you know, of changing it to WTF, and then when you go into it, it's what the fuck. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So hopefully you appreciate the move of the apostrophe S in the hit show. So come here. I've been watching a couple of things. I had a couple of things recommended to me. Thank you very much, and please do recommend more things to me. One thing, what I'm not going to talk about in too much detail, but I will highly recommend you check out. This was recommended to me to my friend, my peer, Alison Spittle. Is it Louis Walsh or Bonnie Heed the Horn for? Let's find out. And Tony's name drop corner. Here we go. So Alison Spittle's my friend. Is it Louis Walsh? She recommended this show called LOL Australia, and this show it stands for Last One Laughing. It is a show hosted by Rebel Wilson where you get 8 comedians, 8 very, very funny and very likable, which is a good thing, which I wasn't expecting. 8 likable comedians in a house for essentially the day, and they're locked in the house for the day with all their props, with all their jokes, with anything they want to do, and they have to make each other laugh. And the last one to laugh, they're not allowed to laugh, is the point. So the last one who actually does finally crack, whether it's out of just a and they laugh, or a smile, or they laugh at their own joke, which happens sometimes, or it could just be from pure exhaustion because it gets insane. But like it gets like Kinga level insane from Big Brother when Kinga was on Big Brother. It gets Shabnab level insane, but in a good way because you want like they have to go insane. Like they go out of absolute desperation to make the others laugh. You know, I think some people might watch it, and you know, people who absolutely despise improv might be like, "You're trying a bit hard there." But people who actually like anyone even trying to be funny, who are actually comfortable. I think comedy and sexuality going to go hand in hand, where people are just so not comfortable with their own sexuality that they're like, ugh. Some people also not comfortable with their own comedy. Might see people trying to be funny and are like, ugh. And I think it comes from the same kind of reaction, you know. Are you comophobic? You're comophobic. You just don't want to hear about anyone laugh. Anyway, there's something there. I'll work on it and I'll come back with a polished bit on this next week about the similarities between sexuality and comedy. But I highly recommend you check it out. It's on Amazon Prime. Oh, Tony, another bloody Amazon Prime. You might have seen a bit of SponCon today on my SponkOn. On my Instagram today. Did a bit of SponCon for Amazon Prime for their new show, The Boys, which I was like, hey, I use Amazon Prime. I have Amazon Prime. I have Netflix. You know, I have Spotify. You know, I use these things. I would very happily talk about them ad nauseum. But, you know, they're not paying me to say about this, LOL. But I highly recommend you check it out. Either check it out on there, or maybe there's a dirty link online. Maybe there's a Daily Motion link online. I used to be the Mac Daddy of finding dirty links online. The whole landscape has changed, right? The whole landscape has changed for finding streaming links online. You know what I mean? You can't go to like tvvideos.org or any of that crap now. I don't even know what the link is anymore. And that was like, there's not much. I don't go to the gym. I am not very fast. I have an okay body. I'm genetically gifted in that I have a broad chest, and that hides a lot of my gut. But if there's anything I could flex, some semblance of, or even my perception of masculinity, it would be finding links online for a show, whether it's, I don't know, whatever we would have watching Game of Thrones season 1 and find a link online. Do you know what I mean? Just, we'd be there. Oh, the glory. Me and Terry, we just sit in bed. We'd order like a dirty chicken from the like proper chicken shop chicken on Just Eat, stay in bed, and I'd be finding link after link. They'd go, they'd die, I'd have another one ready. She would just be like, this absolute specimen, this provider. Look at what he's done for me, And now it's all bloody. I don't know even what the landscape's like anymore. Anyway, what am I talking about? How are you? How are you doing? Oh, what's the thought I'm talking about? I'm talking about another show. So I watched another show. And this is a show I highly recommend. This was a show recommended to me. This was a show recommended to me on either the... actually, it was recommended on the Patreon. It was also recommended on Instagram. As good, wholesome fun. This is a show called Love on the Spectrum. And I know, I was thinking, Netflix dating show, I was expecting they better not fucking put 8 people on the autism spectrum in a Big Brother house and just fucking hope for the best, And I was like, oh, is it going to be something like that? Like, I haven't seen Undateables, but I've seen like Undateables. I think I've not seen too much, but like I know it comes from a good place, and it's full of heart, and it kind of goes into. Actually, I don't know any of that. I actually don't know any of that. I'm assuming that because I haven't seen it criticized much online, but I do see some people kind of whether it be on TikTok or whether it be on Instagram, memeing things from taking things out of context, like Undateables or 90 Day Fiancé or stuff like that. And it's like, no, it's getting into bullyish material. You know what I mean? So I was hesitant with this show. But I did hear it's good, wholesome fun. And you know what it turned out to be? This is a documentary. And I'd say the main highlight of this is trying to properly understand it. There's a guy behind the camera. It's the same guy as well. This guy called Keane. And they're always like, when they talk to the camera, they say, Keane, is this all right? Keane, what should I do now? Keane, can I take a break? And it's all done with incredible care and understanding, and with the interest of understanding more. There's relationship experts who work specifically with people on the spectrum. And it was really interesting. And a lot of people are very fucking funny in it. They're very fucking funny. It's rated very highly on Rotten Tomatoes. It's 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got percentages coming out the wazoo, and it totally opened my mind to, I suppose, how vast the spectrum of autism is, and I suppose, to be perfectly honest, how vast, how debilitating it can be for some people, and there are some people who really, in terms of even communicating or social cues, they are not picking up on most things. It almost seems in some capacity that they're repeating what they have been told. Some people who are on it seem to find it very, very difficult to make connections or even talk to someone else. And there's other people who, who would be very difficult for you to differentiate them with someone who wasn't on the spectrum. And it was fascinating to see, so I watched it, and I highly recommend you watch it, and I'm going to go through it now. One of my patented reviews of a show. So this show, right, this episode 1's introducing you, in general, it's introducing you to a couple of new people every episode. And the whole idea is that there are some people who are single looking for love, and there are some people who have found love with other people who are on the spectrum, and what those relationships look like, how they blossom, how they go to the next step. So first off, Michael, and I'm going to throw this out there now. Michael was my number one boy. Michael to me was one of the funniest guys I've seen. One of the funniest guys I've seen this year. Michael, he says, and it's all Australian. It's an Australian show. He's 25. His first thing he says is, "My greatest dream in life is to become a husband." You know, and I looked at Terry, being like, "Fucking, fucking, yeah, good man, good man." But some dreams should stay. No. Look, it's great. It actually, to be perfectly honest, and I definitely think with the boy, I've said this before. Me and Terry, having a baby and the relationship with your partner, it can kind of for us anyway. It's like we look at each other on a Sunday, and it's like a whole music festival's gone by, and we haven't seen each other, and we're like, "Oh, there you are. What's the crack? How was your weekend?" You know what I mean? And we literally like in tandem the whole time. Sometimes not necessarily been able to see through the shit and piss, and crying. So it did make me kind of think that how much people want this connection. How grateful here am I doing this? How grateful I am for my connection that I have, but we'll get on to that. His greatest dream in life is to become a husband. I think he needs to, like, it's grand. In his room, he's got a Pickle Rick. Hey, Pickle Rick. Which was such a funny bit in Rick and Morty. It is so, like, just gets adopted by... Actually, I don't even know. I don't hate people who like Pickle. I'm just totally getting on side. I think Pickle Rick's great. And if people want to show Pickle Rick, they should show Pickle Rick. I am now totally regurgitating someone else's opinion that I think I heard, where they're like, "Oh, people are into Pickle Rick," or, blah, Rick and Morty fans are the worst fans. I've never seen any of that. I am totally regurgitating someone else's opinion there, so I'm going to call that in now. Who's this new character? Who's this new character in my brain? Someone who's being brutally honest about... Maybe is that Momoa? I don't know who that one was. Anyway, he says, "These are my love ducks." He bought love ducks. And it's love ducks have a similar thing where it's like when you point them in a certain direction, I think I'm going to New Zealand now. When you point them in a certain direction, it is in the direction of love or something like that. You got scammed, Michael. You got scammed. They shouldn't be taking advantage. He says he made a plaque for the love ducks for when he has love. I think they face outwards when he's looking for love, and then when he gets love, they're going to face in at each other. He made a plaque out of wood 5 years ago for his wife. There's a bit of a montage getting to know Michael. We see him wearing a fedora. This is a guy who, yes, absolutely on the fedora. He is adopting the holiday lifestyle at home now, being his best self. He meets his brother. We meet his brother. His brother's a lovely guy, but he compares himself to his brother, which is going to be quite difficult for himself, given that his brother is not on the spectrum, that Michael is on the spectrum. And Michael says, probably the funniest line in the whole show, he's like, "My brother Adam is like a fresh cut of meat from God, while I'm a double scoop of dog shit." I was like, that's a funny gag. You're a funny guy, Michael. And he says as well, "A lot of women want men for intercourse, and a lot of them want a sugar daddy." Hey, look, and I know, I got trapped. I bloody got trapped by one. My wife in her very secure job was like, "I need to get with this artist, this struggling artist." Next up, we meet Chloe. Chloe is partially deaf. She is a florist. She's a very cute woman. I'm not having, I'm not, she's a very cute woman. She's cute. She's cute. She is partially deaf. She was diagnosed at 11. And this is the first time in this that highlighted the fact of I don't know if it works out on, if it's basically a lot of women are not diagnosed until very late in life. I mean, even Aoife Dooley. Aoife Dooley, very funny comedian, incredible artist. She's written the book Your One Nikita, did the cartoon for RTE. She's a Vodafone comedy festival performing comedian. Very, very funny. I've done a few things with her. She was only diagnosed recently at 28. At 28. And I saw her stories on Instagram, and it was like being diagnosed meant everything. The fact that it put a diagnosis on so many things she'd been going through, and she's written loads of stuff about it, and she's done fantastic illustrations to explain the attributes of her and the scale of her autism. So I would totally recommend you check them out online. Chloe just wants to hold hands and kiss. She just wants hand holding and kissing, and to talk to people about Marvel and comics and anime. Like what we all want, don't we all, Chloe? I remember personally having a weird little, I wouldn't even call it an identity crisis. It was more of a kind of like a little strop that I had on like a Monday or Tuesday, probably a Tuesday. I don't think I had much serotonin. This was years back, right? I remember having a strop with Terry being like, I just feel like with most of my friends, I can't talk about like Spider-Man. I feel like everyone's talking about their career and mortgages and all, and I want to talk about Spider-Man, And she's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You can talk, like, that's all you fucking talk about with people, I think things were feeling a bit real. Do you know what I mean? Things were feeling a bit real, and I'm like, I just want to go back to the shed. I just want to go back to the shed, chat shy about who the best Spider-Man is. You know what I mean? So I totally agree with you, Chloe. Chloe doesn't want she doesn't want beans touching. She says to her dad, I don't want the beans touching. I don't want them touching against anything else. They have to be doing the old Alan Partridge, putting the sausages in between, a bit of a breakwater for the beans. She was dumped because she was dumped by the last fella she was with because of her autism. Because of her autism, just because he found out that she was autistic. This motherfucker, right? And as well as that, in her old gaff, when she was living in England, she said the English people bullied her. I feel like I'm connecting with you more and more, Chloe. When I worked in sales, you can take a shot. They used to say potato, potato, potato to me. So I totally know what you're saying. They have a lovely gaff. Australia, to be fair, the big takeaway from this is Australia looks class. All the Mas in this are absolute dampy. They're very attractive older women, and they look like they haven't aged. They look incredible. Like some of these people are almost my age, and the Mas, look great. That's all I'm saying. They have a lovely gap. Her best mate Brody has Down syndrome, and they seem like they got a great. They just seem like, and she's like, oh, we get up to sort of like mischief, and they fucking do. They really do. They're out having a cafe. They go straight over to the lads. They're just like grabbing the lads, like, hey, you, and then running away and laughing at the lads. They're just going over to a bunch of lads, laughing at the lads. These lads who are not, necessarily from what we can see, living with any kind of, disability or anything like that. They're going over to them. Brody goes straight over, being, hey, what's going on? And then runs away, laughing at the lads. And the lads, they don't seem to give a fuck. It was great. Next, we meet Ruth. Ruth is 22. She has a baby snake called Cleopatra. She says her ideal partner is a blondie who's cuddly. And then Tom comes over, the blondie. And Tom looks like he's straight out of Hobbiton. Straight out of Hobbiton. To be fair, the two of them look like they're straight out of Hobbiton. They're a match made in heaven. Tom comes over. He says, she's got a killer body and that's really sexy. I really like it. I really like her body. It's really sexy. She's like spicy tikka masala and I'm like mango chicken. And then, no, I think he says she's like spicy tikka masala and I'm mango chicken. I'm a bit like milder. And then he goes, we're like fire and water. And when they come together, things get steamy. And then Ruth goes, that is so naughty. And then he goes, so deadpan, yes, it is. Fucking kills it. She collects business cards. I used to collect bottle caps because my idol was Bert of Bert and Ernie fame. So I used to collect bottle caps. So Ruth, I totally know where you're coming from with that. He's into trains. I don't get that. I do not get the train thing. I do not get, because there's an affinity, I think, with other people who, from what I've seen, some people on the spectrum, I think maybe like the Order. This is totally me pulling this out of my fucking hoop. But, there are some people who, the whole thing of like people who are mad at the trains and the kind of, it's sometimes used as some sort of like derogatory thing of like, people who are into trains, but I don't get it. Anyway, he's now a bus driver. you know. But as a, he couldn't quite, get into the trains, but the closest thing to that was being a bus driver. He seems like a lovely, jolly bus driver, not like my bus driver, the 29A, who used to tell me, speak up, This guy seems like a nice guy. But I don't get the trains thing. Is it the logic of it all? Is it just the order? I mean, there's a lot of things going on with lifting bridges and lights and making sure trains are on time, I tell you, I'd love to get... Tom, come over to Dublin. Let me get your 2 cents on the Dart. I reckon you'd go fucking apeshit. I reckon you would lose it if you saw what the Dart was like. I reckon you would probably weep if you saw what the Dart was like. Anyway, he's sitting in his garden and he goes, a garden is an idea of heaven, and his heaven is his outdoor train set in his garden, which you can have in Australia because it's so lovely out. Michael, the first guy who says he is a double scoop of dog shit, says he doesn't want anyone loud, gothic, or acts like they're in high school, okay? He's got his set parameters of what he's after. He doesn't like tomboys either. He says, I want to get my woman a crown as she will be my queen, per se, he says. He says he doesn't want kids because he wants to be rich. Look, I fucking... Although currently the fella's, because he's nursing, we haven't paid fuck all. Fuck all! I haven't spent a dime on the boy. Really, There was a couple of things with the pram and stuff like that, but, it's like Japan, It's cheaper than they say, having a baby. It's like traveling to Japan. It's cheaper than they say it is. But I will say as well, Michael, saying you want to get this bird a crown straight away and treat her like a queen, just wait till you see her. Do you want to wait, and maybe let, it's like Ryan Gosling hanging from the Ferris wheel, if it's done in a charming way, or if you're, just play it cool. Do you know what I mean? Like when, like say, like he made this plaque 5 years ago to put his love ducks on her for him and his partner, maybe, when can you bring that up? Do you know what I mean? I made this 5 years ago for you, you might just have to play it a bit cool. You just might just have to play it a bit cool. Be like, hey, I made this thing, like it's no big deal. It's just kind of a, it's how do you do? When can you do these big grand gestures without people being scared? So just be careful. Anyway, then we meet Jodie Rogers, who is an adult relationship counselor. This woman is doing the Lord's work. She totally gets entirely, and you really see the people who are on varying ends of the spectrum, and how competent she is at explaining through visual medium how people communicate in visual cues. She's very impressive. But Michael doesn't necessarily need that work. He can read motherfuckers. He can read people's faces. He knows people. He's got a very good understanding of recognizing emotions, tone of voice, and everything. And he says about his parents, and to be fair, all the parents in this are absolutely remarkable human beings. But these parents in particular, he goes, they haven't done everything, but they've done plenty, and that is adequate. And he also just says out of nowhere, never fall for a girl just because she's hot. So he's got a couple of good rules. Anyway, so Chloe is going out on a date, and she is looking stunning, shall we say. This is Chloe, who is partially deaf, the florist. She is going out on a date, and she looks great. She is going on a date with Marcus. Marcus, he's a dark guy. He looks mixed race. He likes drums, watching sunsets. He hates the feeling of flip-flops. So likes drums and sunsets, hates flip-flops. He's a handsome guy. So we see her on a date, and it's good. And we find that basically they're trying to find shared interests. That seems to be the core of all these dates, is how to ask questions, ask people more things. Yes-anding, essentially, just to keep conversation going and making it broader and broader and getting people talking about the same topic that they want to talk about. But Chloe doesn't seem to need much help with that. She is just so engaged and interested in what Marcus has to say. Now, it's his first date ever, and he lays it on. He lays it on a bit thick. Now he lays it on a bit thick. He's like, I thought I was gay and I watched gay porn. but then I didn't like it. And she goes, oh, okay. And he goes, I like Asians. And she's like, all right, yeah. And she goes, I'm not Asian. And he goes, and Mexicans. And Mexicans, like, do they not, would it, just Mexicans? Just Mexicans, if they're South American. I'm not open to Latinos here. It is exclusively Asians and Mexicans. So she counters with, perfect question, who's your favorite Spider-Man? And she gives a nuanced answer to this. He says his favorite is Tobey Maguire. I mean, I'd run there. I'd run there, to be perfectly honest. He did his best, and Spider-Man 2 was probably the second best Spider-Man, I'd say, in my IMHO. Can I actually say Homecoming's the best Spider-Man? No, actually, no, Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man. Yeah, there you are. It is. It gets Spider-Man the best. So his was Tobey Maguire. Hers was Andrew Garfield. And to be fair, he did do a good Spider-Man. He was shafted. It was just the wrong time, And then she says, and Tom Holland's like a kid, and he's just eating salad with his hands, and she's not feeling it. She's not feeling it. Her takeaway from this whole thing was this guy basically rocked up, ate salad with his hands, said he watched gay porn, wasn't into it, found out from that he likes Asians and Mexicans, neither of which she is. She's like, I think I'm into girls. So she decides she's going to double down on the whole bi thing and wants to see a girl next. We go back to Ruth and Tom, straight from Hobbiton. And they are more than in love, they say. They say, are you in love? They say, we are more than in love. He's a bus driver. We see him on his bus. He says, bit of a bummer, I can't drive a train, but this is the closest thing to it. And then we actually see a clip of when he proposes to her. He proposes when she gets on the bus. He's wearing his regular clothes and has written on the bus, Ruth, will you marry me? And she says yes. She is absolutely ecstatic. They are a match made in heaven. We go back to Michael. Michael, the double scoop of dog shit. He says, I don't want anyone too beautiful. So he's on a date. He's on this kind of speed dating thing. He's chatting to one girl. She's like, I'm kind of sporty. And previously he had said, I don't like anyone who's a tomboy. So he goes for clarification. He says, would you consider yourself a tomboy? And she goes, yes. And his eyes just go, oh. And he checks out. I find a lot of the time people are, sometimes concentration is being tough to kind of maintain in all this. He's very good of everyone I've seen on this show at hiding it. But he does have a kind of tell, which is holding his head in his hands. But he's still better than most people in being able to hide it. At one point, he's like, right, enough of this. Has anyone seen SpongeBob? And then everyone, the table fucking blows up with people doing SpongeBob quotes. And they're loving it. And finally, the conversation's been lifted. He does it, that's not great. But he knows the lines. Better than I know about The Simpsons, as I said in previous episodes, how ashamed I am that I don't really know my quotes down as much as I used to. So he's chatting to one girl, Carly, and, it's nice and stuff, but, she starts talking about her finance job, and it's just, Michael, I kind of lost a bit of interest. She seems nice. I lost interest. Michael loses interest. But then Amanda comes along, and I'm like, oh, no, she's a bit gothic. He doesn't want anyone gothic, right? Probably wouldn't. Oh, he wouldn't want to see pictures of me back in the day. Oh, God, he'd run for the hills. But she's a bit gothic. But then she says she collects toys, one of his interests, and his face, you can see it light up. And she says how old she is. And it's 21, from back when this was shot, 21. And he goes, so you were born in 1997. That means that's the same year Men in Black was released. Love it. Love it. I want to go on a date with you, Michael. And he asks to meet her again, and they do. Right. Next up to Tom and Ruth. So Tom at this point now is showing me up. And actually, to be fair, a lot of these lads are showing me up. They keep doing these big, grand gestures for their girlfriends or their wives. And, like, Tom basically brings Ruth out on this classic 1930s Bentley out to this bay. They sit. There's a picnic in the bay. It's candlelit. Everything's organized. They're just sitting there. And Terry's like, he's an amazing husband. And I just looked, and she looked over at me, and like, I had taken my jeans off because I was too hot. You know, I do that a lot now. I'm coming in. First thing I'm doing is taking my jeans off and just walking around in my boxers, you know, wearing a little vest. I look like fucking 2 scoops of dog shit. And then he's there being like, I love you, Ruth. You're really a really amazing person. So I look so fucking Tom. Jack it in. Stop showing me up. And this would not be the last time I get shown up by one of these lads. These lads in this show is what I'm saying. Not, you know. So then we go to Chloe. She is now on a date with a woman. She's on a date with Lotus. Lotus is also bi. Lotus has short hair. She loves drag. She loves parrots. They're both into anime. Lotus was only diagnosed at 20. And she looks like she's very, very shy. You know, they go sunflower picking. They're both into anime. Chloe seems really cool. Chloe just seems cool and confident with everyone she's going on a date with. Lotus is a little bit shy. A bit shaky and stuff like that. They seem really nervous, but they both decide that they like each other and they want to see each other again. But Lotus seems, and this is just so, you know, I don't know if there's some sort of sexism to it. I imagine there's different symptoms show with different people, but it just, Lotus would have been like in her 20s diagnosed and thought that there was something personally in her decision making within her control that was making her like this, you know, was making her this shy or this difficult making it as challenging to communicate. And your heart just fucking breaks for her. Your heart just fucking breaks for her. But it's looking happy now because she's going on a date with Chloe. Michael is going on a date with Amanda. And Michael says, don't forget to smell the flowers, you know. He says, an A-plus partner looks like me. And he does the old 2 thumbs thing. In a very cute move, his older brother, who looked like he's a hunk of meat sculpted from God, very cutely gives him some really whopper advice. He says, these are the sort of cues you need to look out for. If their eyes widen, if they lean in forward, if they seem to be focused in, they're interested in what you're saying. If they seem to be kind of sitting back, if they seem to kind of be uninterested, like these are the keys for someone who's interested and someone who's uninterested. Lovely stuff, a lovely little touch. He's a solid gold brother. Then it leaves on a cliffhanger and we go into episode 2. He's at the date and the date hasn't arrived yet. Episode 2, Amanda shows up. Amanda, you might remember, is into toys. She is into anime. He helps her to her seat. You know, but the conversation is just falling to a standstill. This is who he met in the speed dating, but now the conversation is just, he's nervous. She's nervous. It's going really tough. She's into cosplay. He's trying to keep the conversation going, but every time it starts, it seems to be stalling. And none of this looks like it has anything to do with either of these two being, you know, finding communication difficult because they're on the spectrum. It just looks like an awkward date. It just looks like any kind of standard awkward date for someone who wouldn't necessarily be on the spectrum. But Amanda has to take a break. It is a bit too much. She has to take a bit of a break. It's very formal, and he brings her to the door. It was just too much. And to be perfectly honest, I think there's a lot of people who kind of have these kind of experiences and they don't give themselves the break to be like, look, if it's going a bit much or if it's a bit intense, you know. And there was a lot of tips just for general life. Just, I need to excuse myself, go to the bathroom, give yourself a breather. You know, especially now, I can only imagine how challenging it is for people, you know, starting to date now who maybe have met on Instagram and been chatting and then they meet up and they don't have that buffer zone of a couple of seconds to think about what to say. Just food for thought. Anyway, then we meet Maddie. Maddie is into video games. She's into books. She's into animals. She looks quite tall. She's got a kind of short bob. She says her ideal partner is tall, muscular, and rich. And she's fucking not joking. She's like dead right. She's like, I will not settle for anything less than that. They go to a community superhero disco. She goes as Batgirl. The mask wasn't great, but I give the rest of the costume an 8 out of 10. Her mom actually taught her social skills. Maddie seems, I don't want to say advanced. I don't want to have any kind of hierarchy here, but she does seem like very competent to communicate, very good understanding for, you know, picking up on kind of social skills. And it turns out her mom taught her everything. It seems like her mom really put in a lot of work. Seems like an incredible woman. Her mom's also an absolute attractive woman. So at the superhero disco, she meets Sean. Sean looks like something out of fucking Calvin Klein. Like big, tall, leather jacket. Um, but he seems very difficult to communicate. He's like, yes, yes, no, no. And he doesn't, to be fair, he doesn't seem like he knows how to handle Maddie. Maddie seems to be like a chat machine. He doesn't know how to handle it. Maddie cracks jokes, and he doesn't seem to be able to, you know, he's a bit of a Drax the Destroyer kind of vibe off this guy. She leaves him and it's like, fuck this, I'm starting a fucking conga line. Gets all the other superheroes behind her on the conga line. And then we meet Kelvin. And Kelvin's 21. Kelvin broke my heart. This whole thing broke my heart, right? Because Kelvin seems like he hasn't really had much communication with anyone other than his single dad, David, who seems either first or generation or second generation Chinese. Seems to be only really, like, David seems quite quiet, seems to be helping Kelvin, seems to be really wanting to support Kelvin, but not the best at himself, who is not on the spectrum, showing these kind of personal skills. His dad seems like he's quite a recluse himself, and he's a single guy. They don't mention what happens to the mom, doesn't come into it. But Kelvin says he views his autism as a way to focus on one thing rather than be distracted. He wants someone who is caring, smart, considerate. He loves his dad. He loves his single dad, David. They just share this small flat together. They share a microwave meal together, and it just seems like they have a nice little unit there, but it just seems like two boys need a bit of a woman's touch or another, or another man, another touch. Kelvin's dad doesn't seem like he's putting many cushions on the pillow, or cushions on the couch, And I do mean cushions. So that's not some sort of like innuendo or anything like that. That's literally like, like just making the place look fancy, poncy, Since the third trimester of Terry's pregnancy and having our boy, we've got 10 pillows on the bed. 10, and not like some are small, like square, but like 10 big rectangle pillows. We absolutely fleeced the in-laws. Anyway, Kelvin's an incredible artist. He does his own anime stories, and he's a Photoshop whiz. And no, like, they look good. I'd love to see what you have in the dirty drawer, though, Kelvin. You don't be drawing that. You don't be drawing women like that, and then not, show me what's in the old dirty drawer there, Kelvin. I know you know. Send them on. Get on Deviant Art there. Do you do commissions, Kelvin? Do you do hentai commissions? Me, Nala, my wife, and Maddie's mom. Back to Maddie. So Maddie is going on a first date, and she's going on a first date with Mark. A little bit of a twist here, where Mark actually becomes an integral character later on, but we don't know that at the time. Mark is mad into dinosaurs, and he likes Mongolian barbecue. He hates littering. He says, I feel really excited and confident that I'm here. She admits she's a bit nervous. Mark, is another type of, what's amazing about this show is that it really is, they're all completely different. Like, in the scope, the scale, how the autism affects their communication, how it's complete. Every single person on this is completely different, but all falls under the spectrum. So it's actually fascinating to see. So first, Mark, it would be at first I found it quite difficult to differentiate him for someone who might not be on the spectrum. But as he kind of went along and was saying things, it kind of sounded like everything he said sounded almost like learned and rehearsed. But then later, as I got to know him, it's like that is just literally the cadence of his voice and what he says. Everything is very specific. And I suppose he just is very, he's very eloquent and not particularly, doesn't really mince words, doesn't waste time on any kind of fluff, She's a bit nervous. He just seems like a classy guy. He pronounces the Italian perfectly. He says ravioli or whatever, He's into paleontology. She hasn't heard the word before. She's explaining it. So she's kind of looking at this being like, I'm quite intimidated by this guy. But when you kind of realize, I kind of would say that she would have the stronger communication skills. But at the time within this, Mark just seems like a kind of cool, debonair kind of guy. He says, you look beautiful. That's a beautiful necklace. I wish this night didn't have to end, he said. I can't remember when I've had this much fun. It does seem like And he does say that again. I can't remember when I've had that much fun. And again, it sounds rehearsed, but I genuinely think he just doesn't fuck around with words. Anyway, it's a kind of a weird split of the bill. She says we should dine and dash. He doesn't get the joke. I kind of get the vibe she's not into him. But this will not be the last time they meet up. We go back to Kelvin. Kelvin and his dad. He's trying to learn new social skills. He's also meeting Jody, the adult relationship counselor. He says, "Shall we go to a party? Shall we go for a party?" He says. Meets Jody. He says, "Cool, it's you, Jody." And Jody explains to us, the viewer, that there is no place on the spectrum where people are the same. And this is kind of where I'm getting the grasp of this. And she says to Kelvin, who we realize, having seen, in comparison to Michael, explaining social skills and doing the drawings, she really has to repeat quite a lot. And she has to make sure that he is not just repeating what she's saying. She actually understands she has to draw stick men. She has to draw dialogue bubbles. She has to explain the importance of trying to find basic common interests and common ground in building a relationship. And she says to him, as well, with a single dad watching on, I had a little whimper where she goes, "Would you like to do hugs and kisses with someone?" He goes, "Yes." And I looked over at Terry and I was all like, I get to do hugs and kisses. You know what I mean? I get to do hugs and kisses with you. I'm not even concerned about dating. And this is not me rubbing anyone in the face, right? But I do, like, literally, I'm in a partnership with someone, and I just can't, you can't be taking that for granted, for how difficult it is to meet someone in general, for how difficult it can be when you don't necessarily have the same level of communication skills, or when you both have to accept the fact that you are completely on a different place of the spectrum entirely, where you're completely separate in your, autism apparently. Where did I read this? The term autism stems from the Greek word autos, meaning self. So autism literally means alone, So it's difficult enough to communicate. So she says, "Would you like to do hugs and kisses?" And he goes, "Yes." I was like, fucking absolutely, Kelvin. Michael, who, that was scuba dog shit, went on the date with Amanda. She felt it was a bit too much. She was into collecting toys. They decide might be a bit better if it's less formal. They meet at Comic-Con. She's wearing all that crazy Sailor Moon shit. I don't know all about anime shit, if anyone has any really, really good anime, like Watchmen level anime, I don't know. Like, I'm just, then recommend it to me. I just can't be, I can't be bothered with a lot of it, Maybe Attack on Titan or something like that. Aside from that, and what's the other one? Angel Lead? What's that one? Elfen Lead? Yeah, Elfen Lead. That was also recommended to me. Apart from them two, if anyone wants to recommend some anime, might give it a go. Anyway, sure. So they meet at the Comic-Con. They're swanning around. It's going well. He gets a bit creeped out by Michael Myers. He gets a bit creeped out by Halloween. He buys her a doll based on the character she's dressed as. He's dressed as the skipper from Gilligan's Island, which I haven't seen, but I'm familiar with it. And he is desperate to see Dawn Wells. He believes Dawn Wells is the best woman alive, and she's not too pretty. Anyway, he gets to meet her. His face absolutely lights up. Amanda, who he's on the date with, kind of isn't necessarily sure if she wants to meet up again, even though he bought her a toy. But I love that. She's like, "Nah, thanks for that, but I'm not fucking putting out." You know what I mean? Anyway, he gets to meet the real Dawn Wells from Gilligan's Island at Comic-Con, and his face lights up. She gives him so much time, and he genuinely, I've never seen a man happier. Maddie. Remember Maddie? So Maddie gets a call from the cool guy. I didn't think she was interested, but she seems to be interested now. The paleontologist. He invites her to the museum and a walk. And she goes, "I didn't think you'd remember me." And he says, "I'd never forget a beautiful face." She's playing it cool. He's playing it cool. We cut back to Kelvin towards the end of the episode. He says, "I have pictures of girls in my brain." Kelvin, draw the wildest shit. Just draw the wildest shit and send it to me. Kelvin's going on a date. And then we cut to the end. Episode 3. So Maddie and Dr. Grant are going to the bloody dinosaur museum. Now he's no Dr. Grant. He's also no Ian Malcolm. He does not get the charm. She can't seem to get a word in. He is bombarding her with dinosaur info. He loves dinosaurs more than most things, you know. He seems nice though. He seems nice, and then he kind of says really nice things. He says, "I tell you, that breeze is like Mother Nature giving you a kiss." And she goes, "I never thought about anything like that. No." And then he goes, "Do you think if you met the perfect guy that you might want to get married?" And she's like, "Look, mate, I just think we should be look. You can. I think we should be fucking friends. You can. Nothing wrong with being friends. That's the wonderful gift of life," he says. But she just doesn't want it. The old lad picks him up, and it's yes, it went okay. We've become new friends, He meets his mate. He meet Mark. Then we realise from Mark's perspective, he's a new character now in this. He's meeting his mate. This chap seems super positive. They're having a good chat. His mate says, "Mark, what if she hates dinosaurs?" And Mark goes, "No way, no way." And then we meet Mark's dad. Mark's dad is like, how far he's come. He says apparently Mark used to be really hyperactive, couldn't focus, and how far he's come. And Mark's dad, I mean, come on, it's a chap in his 50s talking about his son crying. If that doesn't get you right there, then I don't know what will. So Kelvin back with Kelvin and his dad David, the Asian guy. He wants to smell. He wants her to smell like orange juice. "I want her to smell like orange juice or flowers," he says. Anyway, he meets, goes for a date. He goes for, which I thought, but I'm learning as I'm watching this. They go to a teppanyaki restaurant, but like there's fucking fire going everywhere and they're chopping stuff up. I thought that might be a bit of a sensory overload, but that's what very little I know about, because Calvin seems to find it a bit more difficult to focus and to communicate and grasp English. He doesn't hear a lot. He doesn't understand unless you say the word exactly for how it is. For example, he meets Jessica, who hates alcohol, hates Happy Birthday. She likes video games. When she says, "I'm into computers," he's like, if she doesn't say literally computer, she says computers. Because she's a speech impediment, he doesn't know what the fuck she's saying. And the frustrating thing is he fucking loves computers. He loves computers. All he does is fucking spend all his day on the fucking computers, making absolute browsers on Paint. And she goes, "Do you like video games?" He goes, "Yes," but it seems like he hasn't heard what she said. So she takes out her Switch and to play Super Smash Bros. And she fucking decimates him. She absolutely decimates him. She's like, "Oh, you're not very good at video games." And just these two can't communicate. They're finding it tough, And then he says something like, he says at the end, "You don't feel like loving me?" I'm like, fucking Kelvin, you're breaking my heart, man. You're fucking breaking my heart. You're the sweetest boy. But like, this is what's so frustrating. They're both into computers, and they can't seem to communicate the fact that they love computers. They exchange numbers, but it's a bit too much. Back to Maddie. Maddie and her hot mom do a rehearsal. She's an absolute specimen, and they have a lovely dynamic. They do a bit of a kind of a dual rehearsal for the next date she's going to go on. Then it goes back to Mark. Mark is bowling. He's in a kind of a meeting in a group with other people who are on the spectrum. They're doing kind of bowling club. They're having a chat. And this was something that, not that I'm trying to fucking poke holes in Mark's game or anything like that, or trying to, unravel Mark and how he's able to communicate, but they're talking. He's chatting to this girl, pretty girl. Again, she seems like she's quite comfortable communicating and talking. And she's like, "What are your interests?" And she goes, "Oh, I like films." And he's like, "Oh, I like films." And she goes, "What films do you like?" And he goes, "What films do I like? What films?" And he has a bit of an anxiety fit. He has to leave and he's like, "Mate, I just went blank there, And it just kind of seemed like he'd been set up with rehearsal tips, and it just, to actually think and kind of play jazz with what you have to say. At the end of the day, he could have just thought, maybe the movies that I say that I like have to define me. I mean, he said it before. He said Jurassic Park changed his life, so I don't know why he couldn't say that again. So he seemed a bit, So Maddie is on a date. She's had on her second date, things didn't work out with Mark. She's now on a date with Severin. Severin seems like a nice guy. He's a big he's a wide boy. He's a wide boy. He's got a nice black shirt. He looks like your man from The Chase. He looks like one of the whatever your man, the Beast. Is it the Beast? Fucking horrible name for your man on The Chase. He looks exactly like that. He likes violin, hates bananas. Right? Seems like a nice dude. Again, this lad does a big piece. He does a big show-off piece. He plays Skyrim on the piano. He's like, do you like video games? And the chat's going well. Like, he seems very comfortable, competent in holding the chat and picking up on vibes and, getting jokes and getting humor and asking questions and quite quippy and stuff like that. He says, do you like video games? She goes, yeah. And he goes, well, I've prepared something for you. You see that piano over there? And he plays fucking Skyrim. The theme from Skyrim. Fu, ro, da. Plays Skyrim, but he gets so into it, like gets really swept up, and he's just banging the keys, getting really red-faced. It reminded me of the time that I was having pre-drinks in my friend Robbie's gaff, and he had a big group there, and they were playing Guitar Hero, and I was like, here, gives Do Hast there on Expert, and I fucking banged out Do Hast. I was fucking sweating, getting really excited, and then I finished it, and everyone was cheered, and it was one of the best experiences in my life. So similarly, after that, like, I couldn't really hold chat with anyone. I seemed to only want to talk about Do Hast. People were like moving on. We were going out to a bar, and I was like, oh yeah, I believe Do Hast. I have it at home. Like, I was still buzzing off that. Similar vibe on this. That's the Rammstein song, Do Hast. It was a Guitar Hero song, and I absolutely perfected it on Expert, which is really hard. Like, do. Anyway, he's buzzing, doesn't seem to know what to do. Then we see a bit of a boot camp. This is a boot camp. Mark is there. Kelvin is there. And they're kind of learning some more kind of social skills, there. And Mark, he seems to be killing it. He seems to have an understanding of all this stuff. I think it's just a matter of time for this guy. Episode 4, we meet Andrew. He does a James Bond impression. Again, this guy seems really, seems incredibly competent in his job. He loves cuddly bears, and he loves Ernie. He's got a little Ernie. I used to be like Bert, collecting the bottle caps. This guy's Ernie. He's a tall ginger guy, in case you've seen him in the thing. That's the guy. He does a very good Crocodile Dundee. Call that a knife. This is a knife. But he is one of the lads who enjoys jigsaws, models, an incredible connects artist, and mad at the jigsaws and stuff like that. So again, this was kind of like, you're a bit too, he'd be more, he's a bit more advanced than me with this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, give me the Marvel, give me the comics and stuff like that. Not to say one's more advanced than the other, but he's just, he seems like a fucking genius, this guy, with his ability to build all this stuff. So Andrew, he seems like a nice guy. He's minding his gaff while his parents are away. He seems very competent, very reliable guy. He seems like a nice guy. But his communication, as we find out later, leaves, he doesn't maybe grasp the difference between asking a load of questions and asking the right questions and honing in on expanding what people are talking about. We go back to Mark. Mark says he's never kissed a girl. He meets Lauren. Lauren seems to have a great sense of humor. She has cerebral palsy. She hates escalators and chickens, and he lays it on again quite thick with the dinosaurs, but she likes it. She seems to like it. And he says, would you like to, again, has something big prepared, again showing me up in front of my wife. They're going to feed the penguins together. She says she loves penguins because they walk like her. She's got a great sense of humor about the cerebral palsy thing. She asks him out for another date, and she asks for a hug, and they want to go on another date. It's great. Then we meet Liv. She's 25. She loves cats, and has named all of her cats Duchess. And then someone says, is that cat also named Duchess? And she goes, no, it doesn't have a name because I hate that cat. She's really cool. She seems like a cool actor. She's part of this theater group for people. She seems like she's living a life on her own. There's not much mention of her family. She also said she was diagnosed very late. Again, this is like a fucking recurring theme in this whole thing is, people who are diagnosed women particularly, who are diagnosed quite late in life. She also has a tic where she jumps around a lot when she seems overwhelmed. We haven't really seen people with the hyperactivity level she would probably be the you know, I don't know if that's. I think that's one of the levels on the spectrum is hyperactivity and an inability to focus. She also finds it very difficult to focus on people's chat, and she's very honest about it. With like, I fucking zoned out there. You can't. I couldn't fucking pay attention to what you were saying. But she seems really cool. She seems like she has a great sense of humor about everything. But again, just a completely different side of the spectrum. It's really interesting to see. Stuart, this chap who runs the theatre company, seems like the fucking coolest guy ever. What a fucking great guy. She loves the theatre. Andrew's parents come home, kisses his man on the lips. His dad gets emotional. He needs to stop kissing his man on the lips. There's a time. There's a cutoff. It's great. Look, it's great. But there's a time where it has to just be cut off. We go back to Liv. Liv says she doesn't have a lot of confidence. Liv if you remember from the show, if you've seen the show, she's, in the theatre company. She's got red hair. She's got glasses. She's very funny. She's very hyperactive. She doesn't have a lot of confidence in herself. She meets Christopher. Christopher seems like he's got an accent. They seem like they have a lot of chemistry. He's funny. She's quite bantery. He seemed kind of super cool, but there's no spark. I couldn't really, I suppose we'd only seen the other dates in terms of, to base it on. But Christopher, he seemed like a really funny guy, and quite kind of cool and suave and debonair. But she wasn't feeling it. She wasn't feeling it. She said there was no spark. Oh no, he says there's no spark. But it seemed like there was a good vibe. It seemed like, Chris, you let me down. There was a good vibe. Andrew, the tall ginger lad, is on a speed dating. So they're sitting down, they're kind of like having conversations and stuff like that. They have kind of cards that they can use to kind of base their chat. He doesn't really like any of the cards. He doesn't seem to like any of the kind of questions. A lot of people into Toy Story. A lot of people saying that their favorite film is Toy Story. And again, it's very interesting to see how people vary on the spectrum. But he does meet someone, and Evie, and they kind of hit it off. They start chatting about Toy Story, and maybe they might be going on a date. Watch this space. Olivia is meeting now Thomas. Thomas looks like a nice dude from like an 80s band. He's got like kind of quiffy hair. Again, it kind of doesn't seem, I'm finding it difficult. Maybe it's his hobbies, his interests. I'd say between him and this Thomas guy and Tom, who was with Ruth, would probably be the two people who would be seem quite difficult to kind of differentiate them from someone who is not on the spectrum. From all the social cues that they would give off, it doesn't kind of seem. He seems like, he talks about his hair. He says he has a vigorous routine for his hair. She completely zones out. He says that's normal. That's fine. It seems to be going well. She seems to be, as lively as he is, kind of buzzing off everything. They're dancing in the moonlight. He plans like this dance in the moonlight. She thinks he's making fun of her. She gets quite defensive about that. He says, no, I'm so sorry if it seemed like that. She seems quite hesitant after that. It really seemed like, he was just kind of dancing around. She's like, you're making fun of my disability. And he's like, what? No. Doesn't seem to be able to reclaim the date back from that. That's, when you get, and I don't think he was, but, it's a difficult one to get back from. And they decide to chat online instead. Andrew gets a message from Evie saying she was interested. He's very pleased, and Kian from behind the camera gives him a high five. Episode 5. Evie cancels. She's going through some personal stuff. And do you know what happens? Jodie comes on board. Jodie, the relationship counselor, comes on board, and she goes, do you know what? I'm going to be honest with you, bro. You can dwell on this. The reality is, I don't think she felt that there was a connection. She lays on him. She's just not that into you. Like, without even giving any kind of courtesy, oh, maybe it was. She just, look, you need to be dating more. Don't worry about it. You're not going to find the person on the same go. Very brave. Then we meet Shanahi. Everyone's going to be Sharnay and Jimmy. Sharnay and Jimmy, these are already a couple. They are a couple. She was snatched. She said she snatched him up at the job center. They both have kind of, he seems quite very smart, very good with a Rubik's Cube. Very good with kind of geometrical shapes. He's a pool master, pool shark. They're a lovely couple. They're moving in. Sharnay seems more kind of like hyperactive and really giddy. But Jimmy seems more kind of recluse. She seems to bring a lot out of him. Like she has to almost coax him into being able to talk in the interview. They seem very beneficial for each other. He worships the ground she walks on. It's a lovely young relationship. And he was only diagnosed at 20 and is 21. And he looks like he's far further affected by this. You know, I mean, maybe if people had known this earlier on, similarly to Lotus early on, maybe they would have had the facilities for him to better understand, or not better understand, but feel more comfortable in these kind of social environment. Andrew, anyways, having a chat with Jodie. Obviously, they continue in the chat about Evie cancelling and everything like that. She says, don't just ask questions. Don't just ask questions. Trying to focus on the topic that people are talking about to get them to talk about it more. It's great. Jimmy is at the bar. He's showing off his pool skills, but he feels a bit weird. See, this is the thing you don't see. You thought Jimmy beforehand seems quite, comfortable. But then there's too many people there in the pool tournament. And he's like, I don't know these people. This is very different. I don't feel comfortable doing the pool tournament. But there was a match on, the people leave, and then he absolutely fucking slaughters everyone. I reckon that Jimmy's an absolute shark, right? And I reckon what you're going to see is them ending up just cancelling the tournament because Jimmy's going to win every week. Olivia says, similarly to the definition of the word itself, autism is like being in a transparent box and not being able to fucking speak. She meets Jackson, right? Jackson, who has a neck beard. They both live in Gosford. He seems super chill. He's like, I think you're really lovely. And, she's sweet. And, it's cute. It looks like it's going well. He gives her jacket. He says he's a sucker for redheads. And it's a good date. It's a good date. They seem to be getting on well. He just seems super chill. He laughs at things that she says. They seem to balance each other a bit more. The last guy, bit of a schmoozer, although he seemed kind of perfect. She wasn't into that. The other guy before them wasn't into her. In this case, they seem like it's going well. He asked for a number. They seem really nice. And he does have a neck beard. We won't hold that against him. They seem to be getting on well. Jimmy and Sharnay, they're going on holidays to the Gold Coast. Jimmy has something planned. Again, fucking showing me up. They roll around the flat. They're smitten, but then he gets a bit wound up. See, it's these kind of moments where everything looks like it's going well for Jimmy until it's literally this like wall. And it's either there's too many people in the bar, I can't talk to these people right now. And in this case, it's navy socks. They get dolled up. She's wearing a lovely onesie kind of dress. He doesn't have navy socks. He's like, I need navy socks. I can't wear this without navy socks. And it's like, genuinely, and not to use this, I don't use this, but he's repeating it a lot. Like you see Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man, which I don't know was if it was good or bad for autism is Dustin Hoffman in that. I mean, it's an incredible performance, but I don't know if that is what people... It's... Because there's not enough diversity, and because there's probably not enough representation of people who are on the autism spectrum, people probably think it's all Rain Man and it's all repeating the thing over and over again. But look, Jimmy's like, need navy socks. No, I need navy socks. Are you upset about the navy socks? Yeah, no, it's navy socks. Just need to get navy socks. And she goes, we'll get navy socks. We're going to go out and get navy socks now. He's like, I need to get navy socks. He seems really upset about it. He's on his Rubik's Cube. He's focusing on it. He seems quite anxious by the fact that he doesn't have the right color socks. It's just terrifying that anything like that, something so small and trivial for us, might be quite effective or quite could upend Jimmy's day like it has. Andrew goes on a date with Carly. We saw Carly previously going on, the speed date thing with Michael. Didn't seem to be going well, but here it looks like it's going well. They're doing bools. Now, to be fair, Carly has the smallest hands I've ever seen of anyone ever, and probably wasn't the best idea for a date. Andrew was quite tall, but he has been quite good. He's showing her how to do it. He's explaining things. They're exchanging dating history. She was with someone. He mentioned the fact that he went on a speed date before. He's doing really well because he's asking questions. He's showing. He's perfectly explaining exactly how to roll the bull. Having something like that, works well. He said, if I had a hat on, I'd take it off. And look, it seems to be going well. But outside of the Bulls environment, the chat has just dried up, and it's talking about a bit difficult. They talk about their dream partners. They shake hands. Will they ever see each other again? I don't think so. But it was, Andrew's getting better. They're all getting better, We go back to Jimmy and Sharnay, and I feel like they had to give us this. Do you know what I mean? Because as it turns out, everyone who was looking for love is still looking. Everyone. No one was able to be fixed up. I mean, it's a fucking reality. It's a TV documentary. It's not the defining everything. It's essentially a couple of weeks in someone's life that's documented. It's not meant to define their entire life, but they are still looking. In this couple of weeks, they've not found someone since then in the last year. They've been on a couple of dates. But Jimmy and Sharnay, he brings her up to a big hill on the Gold Coast. There's a guy with a piano. Again, he's fucking showing me up here. He sings a song on the mic. She cries. He proposes. It's a very happy ending. There's love to be found on the spectrum. We had Ruth and Tom. We had Jimmy and Sharnay. And everyone else is still trying. Michael apparently is still dating. Kelvin is drawing a graphic novel. He now wants to join the Australian Post Office. Olivia and Jackson decided to be friends. They're hanging out as friends. Michael's trying to be a voice actor. He's on a dating app as well. And Maddie got a job in a doggy daycare, you know. Tom and Ruth as well, they got married. They got really long hair. They live beside the railroad. He's delighted to be living next to the railroad. He even stops the interview in the middle of it so he can photograph a train going by. They seem happy. They all just seem super content. And it's incredible. I thought it was a really good show. And it's very heartwarming. And it's not like it's like, you know, there's no pressure on anything. But I found it very interesting to see communication skills for people who are on different ends of the spectrum and really what it takes to have a good date and have a good chat. This is not me calling anyone a fucking cunt of a child. This, I think, is a great show, and I highly recommend you watch it, even though I've spoiled the whole thing. So that's the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. If you would like to listen to more, you certainly can. It's over on the Patreon. You can check it out. Tony Cantwell's Shit Show, Tony Cantwell's Shit Show, Patreon, where you can listen to more breakdowns of movies on my Movie Bake episodes. I do a new episode every single week. 4 extra episodes a month for the equivalent of a price of a pint a month, and that's it. And you can listen to that there. If not, hey, I'm going to see you here next Tuesday for my Back to School special. It's the start of September. It's back to school. I got all the stories about going back to school, and we'll talk about it next week. So for the best, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I love you, and goodbye. It's Tony Kelvin Shit Show.